So when I was at school, I was the stupid one. I probably still am. I used to copy from Stephen Brett. I used to be friends with Christopher Baisley. I had the board rubber thrown across the classroom by Mr. Swan, and he was a good shot. He used to hit me nearly every time. I used to pass my tests, but that's because Stephen Brett was my friend. I used to sit beside him and look over his shoulder and see his times tables, and I used to pass my times tables each time because 2 times 8 is 16 every single time. But when you're doing English, it's a bit tricky. And Christopher Baisley was my friend in English, and I'd sit beside Christopher Baisley and do my English, and unfortunately, when you're handing in the same story, it's a little bit coincidental. But somehow I got away with it. But in this new world, in this smarter world, I'm here to tell you about why it's okay to be stupid. My son came from school the other day and he said, there you go. My son came home from school the other day and he said to me, I'm stupid too, Daddy. Like you said, you were. It's not a good thing, is it? In this world, it's smarter, it's faster, it's bigger, and it's always going to get smarter because that's all we've ever done. In the agricultural revolution, that's what we did then. We got smarter. We put man and machine and animals together to farm more land. We moved from the farms and the fields into the factories in the Industrial Revolution. And we created artificial power like steam and electricity to make those machines run themselves. We didn't need brawn anymore. We could move from the factories into the offices. And now we are in the offices today, making things even more smarter. We're living in a world of artificial intelligence, in the intelligence revolution, if you want to call it something, where everything is unbelievably smart to the point where these algorithms are going to code themselves. And they are already coding themselves, and they're going to get bigger and stronger and more intelligent than the human being. And I call it the spider-human ratio, where if you're a human and you see a spider, a big ugly spider in the corner, because we're the bigger species, we're going to stamp on it. What happens when the algorithms are more clever and more stronger than us and they're just getting carried away and creating themselves through self-assimilation? Maybe they will crush us. It's a scary world, and my good friend Sean Gawley, a phenomenal mathematician, physicist, and data scientist, said it's inevitable, immortality or extinction for the human race. This is our world today. Take a stat about where this is leading. 38% of the jobs that we have today will not exist by 2030. We're going to be unemployed like we were through the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution, where we didn't need people in fields, and so we put them into factories. And we didn't need people in factories, we put them into offices. Hang about, there's a trend here. Maybe we're not going to be unemployed anymore. Maybe that is a stupid stat, because by the time 2030 comes along, those people who are going to be retired, the people now, they're going to be retired, and those jobs will retire with them, just like we've always done in each revolution. It's going to get worse, though, potentially. Or maybe it gets better. In this world of quantum, where we sit on the Schwarzschild radius, the ring outside outside of a black hole, when there's no chance, there's no choice, but we are going to go in, and quantum supremacy is going to happen maybe this year, maybe early next year. I hope it does, because that's what Quantum X is all about. But ultimately, it's going to get worse. These jobs which have been created today, these new business models created for tomorrow, like things based on blockchain, are already defunct. The blockchain will easily be broken with quantum technology, if it hasn't already, and that's another conversation that's definitely worth a beer later on. So no jobs, no new business models already broken. So we're all fucked. True? Well, maybe not. Maybe there's another level of intelligence which is required, which is something along the lines of P versus MP. Maybe there's 2 new areas where we're going to be excitable, we're going to be required, we're going to be useful. Quantum technologies opens up new doors, it opens up new avenues, it opens up humans to be useful again once more. P versus NP is a mathematical equation, a mathematical problem, should I say, set by the Millennium Prize, of which if you solve it, you're given $1 million. So get out there and do it. But the only problem is it hasn't been solved today as yet. But basically what P versus NP means is in this new world of quantum, we're going to be able to solve NP problems. P are the problems that we solve today through classical computational models. NP are the problems that we don't even know actually exist, or the problems which are too complex to actually solve through normal computational models. So we open up the door to solve NP problems, which means we need different types of people, potentially, different types of roles, different types of jobs. Take George Leonard back in 1960, another opportunity for us as humans. He started the human movement, and he believed, and still does the human movement still believe today, that humans have only tapped a very small percentage of their potential. Think of us being superhumans, but we don't even tap into that. And he studied neuroscience. He spoke to neuroscientists and psychologists and philanthropists and loads of people, and they all agreed that we're only using 10% of what human is capable of doing. So we have opportunity everywhere. We have an opportunity in eugenics, in euthanetics, in DNA engineering, in nanotechnology. All these things are going to be opening up these doors into new industries and new jobs. So maybe that was not so stupid after all. Maybe there is an opportunity for us to make friends with technology once more and make friends with the artificial intelligence once more. And maybe the most employable people of tomorrow are going to be the people who play well and work well and augment themselves with algorithms. Because that's what the new world is going to be about. The new world is about augmented creativity. And I believe, coming from a technology background and starting up a quantum incubator, I still believe that the ultimate intelligence is creativity. It's weird sitting here as a CTO talking to you about this, but it really fundamentally is. Augmenting ourselves with artificial intelligence to be able to be free to be creative. The problem is the education system kind of fucks us up as we go along. We go into the education system with this wonderful mind, a childlike mind, and then the education system crushes us all the way through. We learn to become these things called adults, which aren't that great. Because if you take this stat, a result of a test by a chap called George Land back in 1968, he created a test for creativity. He created a test of creativity for NASA to get astronauts up into space and make sure that if something went wrong and they have no manual, they need to be as creative as they possibly can to get the spaceship back down. You get the idea. Then he decided to test it on adults, and he decided to go all the way down to children the age of 3 to 5. Adults pass it 2% of the time. Children pass it 98% of the time. By the time we go through our education system, we've basically learned to be non-creative. It's knocked us out with fear of judgment, with fear of being stupid, with fear of our grades being less than someone else's. We stop speaking, we stop listening, we just conform. And Seth Godin talks about this. He says, tomorrow we need leaders and problem solvers, but the system does not give us those. How do we find these people of tomorrow? What do those people of tomorrow look like? What do the new leaders look like tomorrow? What are the tools we need to put in our education system? Well, I believe it starts with us. We were all children once. We're all still children at home. Well, I certainly am. I'm a big kid. I love being stupid. And I honestly believe that these childlike behaviors are the ones we need to harness. There's nothing new here. We just have to learn to be children once again. Take the first one, naivety. There's nothing worse, is there, than being the stupid one in the meeting. Hello, yes, yeah, I've got an idea. And he's just like, yeah, whatever, twat. Stupid idea. Well, maybe it's not so bad. Children are the most naive little things on planet Earth. This is maybe some of you have seen this. I've always used this slide, but I love this slide because of the fact this is the ultimate naivety, but yet the wonder of a young child's mind. The story goes like this. Jacob is my son. Many years ago, he said, can we go and look for caterpillars in the garden? I said, of course we can look for caterpillars. We looked for caterpillars in the garden, and we couldn't find a caterpillar anywhere. My dad points were like that. I felt like such a bad dad, such a bad man. He goes, it's okay, we're going to go and find caterpillars. So he goes out and he makes this. And I said, well, how does that work, Jacob? He says, well, what happens? All those caterpillars we can't find, well, you can't find, Daddy, are up in the trees. They're going to come out and see those juicy leaves. And they're going to come out and get the juicy leaves. And then they're going to go up the ice cream cone, which he found from his little sister's playset, and eat the egg, because caterpillars love eggs. They love eggs. They go up the stick because they're so full from the leaves in the egg, and they sleep under the leaf. And that is where you find the caterpillar. Fucking genius. Did it work? No. But that doesn't matter, because most of the ideas that we have in this are all quite often found by accidents. They're quite often found by stupidity. They're quite often found by putting ourselves in a weird place to find something new. They make the invisible visible. Children see things that adults aren't conformed to see because we conform to society. My daughter, when I fried her an egg the other day, her name's Freya, and she said, Daddy, where's the tigers gone? And I said, what do you mean tigers? She saw a tiger cub paw print in an egg. Did you see it? Because I guarantee you didn't. But the children see these things. They see what's invisible, and they make it visible because they just see what's in front of them. And sometimes that's the easiest route to creativity. Honesty is a wonderful thing too. And children are so wonderfully honest. I went to go and give my daughter a kiss the other day in the car, and she said, Daddy, your breath stinks. I'm like, great, thanks. Like, just completely imploded as a man and as a daddy. But what did I do? I went and brushed my teeth. Honesty provides you a chance of absolutely innovating towards something very successful. Without honesty, Nobel Prize winners, physicists and so forth who have got the Nobel Prize would never have got to where they've got to. And phenomenal studies show that all they attribute to, their success to is the absolute empirical fact, the source for truth. But the problem about this is that we're full of liars and yes men within our organizations. Corporate politics gets in the way because you've got to be a yes man. And then if you're not a yes man, then you get stabbed in the back. Honesty is the thing we need to harness tomorrow. The problem is it feels like childhood betrayal. Honesty is childhood betrayal, a phenomenal sentence I heard the other day, and it so is true. But without the stopwatch for an athlete training for an Olympic medal, what's he got? Nothing. Does he lie to himself that he's faster than he was? No, because he won't win. The way for absolute creativity, the way to succeed is through not technology, but through honesty. And great companies like Hyperloop reward honesty. They are emphatic about honesty, emphatic about the facts, to the point where I know that they've just reached out to a good friend of mine. He's the director of human performance at Red Bull, because they're trying to send a man to 700 miles an hour through a tube. It sounds great, but do you know what happened to Felix Baumgartner when he jumped out of the plane, out that little capsule in space? They hunt for the people who can tell the truth. They hunt for the people who will tell those horrible truths, which may be a barrier initially, but then they can overcome it with that truth. And going to 700 miles an hour as a grandma or as a baby, it's not very good for you. But they will succeed through truth. Safety. What do we do as adults for our children, for the people who have children? You provide the most loving, nurtured environment you can possibly give, because if they are scared of the dark, you give them their teddy bear. You make sure they have their teddy bear. You make sure that the bogeyman's not in the corner. There are no monsters in the dark. They'll always be found. But more importantly, you give them the belief that they are safe. They're in a safe environment. And why is that so important? Well, if you look at studies like the Project Aristotle from Google, a great example of this. The way to succeed through the studies that they had with all the teams that they had within Google, they found one thing which drives success, which drives creativity. Creativity drives success because you can be problem solvers all the way through. It's not the fact that I was an ITSJ or this person over here was an EX, whatever that thing is from Myers-Briggs, or that I was super at physics or what have you. It wasn't about that. It was about one thing, psychological safety, through two things. Those two things are this. Unequivocal listening. You close your laptop. You two, close your laptops. You close your laptops. You turn your phone off. You listen to someone who's the other side. You don't wait to say something. You're listening. And from a human's point of view, that is absolutely massive to actually feel as though you can contribute. And then all of a sudden, those naive questions start to come out. The other thing is a share of voice, that you're being listened to, that everyone in the room has an equal share of voice. And with that, you create psychological safety, and you can do phenomenal things. And if you don't think that's good, then just look at the development of the brain. A study done on animals around this was they were given two different environments. One which was an unsafe, kind of unknown environment. The other one was an enriched, not an impoverished environment. And the brains, the dendrites, the neurons which are required for multiple thoughts and cross-fertilization of thoughts, all of a sudden start to grow so much more. In a bad environment, in an unsafe environment, unloved environment, it's a sparse growth of the brain. And this applies to humans too. We need to believe in our children. We need to believe in ourselves. And as leaders, we need to truly project belief within those people, because then creativity will come through. Edison was taken out of school at the age of 10, and he's probably our most prolific inventor, a commercial inventor, someone who's with true commercialization of what his ideas. And he attributes all his success for the belief that his mother gave to him. He was taken out of school because the school system was rebuking him, because he was probably then ADHD, or whatever you want to call it. And he was taken out of school, and his mother injected the belief and homeschooled him, and he attributed all his success to his mum. So why don't leaders do that in today? That you can do it, that you will succeed, because if you have that, you will believe in yourself. And if you want to take a more extreme example, you take this, the Israeli army. The Israeli army and special forces training into the special elite of the Israeli army, or I can't remember what it's called. They had an experiment. I, as leader one, had a set of recruits, and they weren't very good, but I was told that they were the best of the best. The other guy was told that he had the worst, and they were actually the best. And who do you think got through training? It was the people who weren't so good, but the belief of the instructor upon them, that was the only thing. The instructor had no way of knowing anything other than that. And it's that belief, that projected belief, going back to what George Leonard talked about, these humans communicating with different ways. Just because we believe in someone makes all the difference. You perform. Laughter. So that's Jacob and Freya, my two little people. And basically, laughter is an infectious thing. But the science of laughter is quite simple, that it drives unbelievable levels of success and unbelievable levels of creativity. Laughter allows us to bond as people, because I laugh and you laugh. They laugh and you might laugh, or you might smile and someone else is smiling. Before you know it, you're connected, you're talking. Laughter is pretty much the unknown science of everything that we are evolved around. And what's interesting about laughter is that they actually did a study around top executives, the top executives of the world, and they found this one thing, that those successful people were going to succeed. They laughed 237% more than the normal top executive, the boring one. So we have to laugh. We have to laugh because we can create, because we feel safe, because we bond with people, and that again creates the right environment for ultimate creativity. We need to be naughty. We can't be obedient. The people who get ahead in the world of creativity are the people who break all the fucking rules. They are the ones, all the obedient ones tapping away, thinking they're succeeding, filling in the forms. They're not the ones who are going to succeed in this new, much more intelligent world. We have to really rip up the rule book, just like children do. Because believe me, my two children are not obedient. They need to harness the world of invisible friends. The number 2 use of Alexa right now is homework. And my son goes up to her and goes, "Excuse me, can you just tell me the cloud formations?" And she will tell you, cumulus and so forth. It's a phenomenal level of source of information. Just like you're meant to be cheating when you use a calculator when you're at school, you weren't allowed to do that. Why not? Because computers that's what they're for. Humans are there to create. We're a spongy, squidgy thing, not just ultimate intelligence. So let's use those things. Let's augment ourselves with that. So I believe that we need to empower adults to be children. And with those childlike behaviors and just not taking ourselves too seriously, we truly will create. And if you don't believe in me, then look at Picasso. He said in his dying years that it took him 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child. One of the most creative, artistic people in the world. And what he meant by that in further studies is to be curious, is to love each other, to not be frightened to say what you really think, because that gets you ahead. To be free. And if you don't believe in me and some of those facts that I've bombarded you with, and you don't believe in Picasso, then maybe you'll believe in Jacob, my son, who, when I told him what I was doing coming over to Dublin, he wrote a poem. And this is what he wrote.
It doesn't matter where you're from, the colour of your skin is, or the religion you follow. See, children like me only see the person, the smile, and the mind that is in front of us. You see, we accept, and we don't question. We love, and all we want to return is acceptance and love. Because if we have all that, then we can live in safety, and then we are invincible. My mummy and daddy told me that I could climb any mountain, swim any sea. But I said, what if I don't want to climb a mountain or swim any sea? They said, it didn't matter as long as I followed my heart. But I said, but my heart is inside my body, how do I follow it? They said, just fix the things that make you angry and laugh whilst you do it. At this point I have to admit, I thought they were going a little bit crazy, but I just smiled and nodded. They said, surround yourself with people who can make your work feel like friendship, because then you can be free without judgment. I said, but that's impossible. Joshua and my best friend Victor live miles away. I said, but what if I'm only clever in a bendy kind of way? They said, bendy intelligence was the most important one. In the end, I just made everything simpler and went into the kitchen and asked Alexa.
Thank you very much.